Welcome back. I'm Opal Palmer-Adisa.
And I'm Ruth Howard.
And we have one other guest coming up on this show on Independence. I've had fun, Ruth. Have you had fun?
This was an excellent
we've just had a great time. Please introduce our next guest.
All right, so coming up next is a true Jamaican creative. He is one who since early childhood has known what it is to be a proud citizen and practitioner of a country and culture that is dear to his heart. He has written extensively on topics highlighting the way of life of his people and has been performing on the festival scene since his fledgling years with the JCDC. He strongly believes he has something of substance to offer his world, and I believe so too, and is delighted for any opportunity he gets to showcase his beautiful nation. He has written 6 short books of poetry and has also composed music and is generally very active in national life. Let's welcome Sean C. Harrison. Sean, welcome to the program. Hey.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, we are so happy to have you. We've been having a lot of fun, and we know we're going to have a lot of fun with you and listening to your poems. But first, but first we want to start off with that festival song that you sent us.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So now we're about to hear Country Life by Ras Carby.
Yes, ma'am.
More people they are country than town. Some of them black and some of them brown. Them sweeter than sugar and them sweeter than spice. You never know say country people were so nice. Born and raised in Kingston City, as a youth I thought Kingston was the place to be. Until I powered up a country field to check me granny and catch a country bus out a halfway tree. You never know say country bus ride so nice. Lord, you never know say country bus ride so nice with a driver. Span up, span up, span, span up, span up, span up, span, span up, span up, span up, span, span up, span up, span up, span, span up. Before me know it, me catch a country, eating jelly under a coconut tree. Talking to a lady named Sister D. She tell me your country life, Irene. We never knew say country life was so nice. Lord, we never knew say country life was so nice. It's sweeter than sugar and it's sweeter than spice. We never knew say country life was so nice. When she done, she cooks dinner for me. Roast breadfruit, turkey, fish and bammy. And she introduced me to her family. I get her under that's and bird a shorty. Me never know say country people so nice. God, me never know say country people so nice. Them sweeter than sugar and them sweeter than spice. Me never know say country people was so nice.
All right, Sean. Never know a country life so nice. Indeed. So, Sean, let me ask you this. Are you a countryman?
I am definitely, most definitely.
Here it is, all right.
Unapologetically a countryman.
And which parish?
St. Thomas in the east. A star in the east, man.
All right.
Indeed. So, Sean, you know, we want you to lead into a poem by saying what independence, the 60th independence, means to you, and then segue into one of your poems, please.
Okay. Well, I have three points.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what independence means, that our nation has become confident enough to chart its own path.
Mm-hmm.
Colonialism took from us much of our sense of self, as it even concerned our Africanness.
Mm-hmm.
Independence, to me, is about undoing much of that to carve out a distinctive place in the cosmos and scheme of things that's uniquely ours. This is most important for us to use this time to augment, because there is so much we have intrinsically as a people that defines us remarkably, which is enough for us to be able to hold our own, even among the great of nations.
Yes.
It is, to me, recognizing that we are enough and have enough, and therefore do not need to look away from ourselves only as we look to Mother Africa for further guidance and affirmation. Now, secondly, independence for me means reflecting upon the path we have walked to be where we are today, and setting up waymarks and milestones by iterating the things which are good and great about us, the things which make us uniquely Jamaican. It is about recalling, as Burning Spear sang, great men who've been fighting for our rights from time immemorial, and making those truths appear to the very fore of every Jamaican mind. We have long had the reputation of possessing a short memory. We cannot afford to let slip out of our collective consciousness the sacrifices that have brought us to where we are today. Independence for me is reclaiming through recalling. As our beloved national the Right Honorable Marcus Garvey stated, to paraphrase, a people without a knowledge of the past is like a tree without roots, and that's the paraphrase. So independence for me, secondly, is a time for revisiting and reclaiming, and revisiting through reclaiming. And finally, it means to me passing the baton of national pride to future generations through the vehicles of our culture and the institutions and movements such as Garveyism, Rastafarianism, and the core Christian values, as well as our rich African ancestry, with a view to preserving the essence of what constitutes our being uniquely Jamaican. As we chart the way forward, may we ever be mindful that our roots run deep and that we need to continually.
Sean, we're losing. Okay, speak a little louder, please, Sean. We lost that last bit a bit.
I'm sorry. All right, are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Yes. As we continue to chart the way forward, I was just saying, may we ever be mindful that our roots run deep, and that the tree needs to be continually watered to remain strong and fruitful. And so must we seek to instill and reinstill in the minds of our younger demographic at this time the elements that brought us to this juncture in our nation, and seeing the same as being the vehicle for propelling us even further into eternity. Independence is as much a time for passing the torch as it is for reflecting. So as we march on, may we know there is still so much ground to cover that we must take every opportunity to have future generations see and know we are depending on them to preserve the legacy that was so long ago fought for. And of course, when I think of St. Thomas, Jamaica, Renil Spen, in which I grew up, I think of stalwarts like Mama Tiney. I think of Mrs. Dalton Sterling, who are entrepreneurs and who were persons who ran cottage industries in my community. I think about Joseph Iyah Buggy Hamilton, a dear, dear man who knows so much about herbs and plants and who passes that knowledge on so readily to others, and who has been such a kind, giving, a seller of fruits and foods for us here on this housing scheme that I grew up as a child. And I remember my days back in the day, when we used to run those hillsides and those streets and lanes as children, as I said in one of my poems, fearless, free. Independence means to me Grand Gala. Independence means to me festival time when I would recite poetry and hear other children, practicing at the Morant Bay Primary School, the Maypole, and doing what you would call chorals, poetic
choral
chorals.
poems, yeah.
Yes, and I think of the radio that would actually, be one of the major carriers of the essence of independence.
This is true.
Music,
yes, through the music. Yes,
and also, when we would hear, dramatizations and skits coming out of the whole JCDC's, festival time.
Yeah, JCDC has done a tremendous job of promoting our culture.
Absolutely.
And because of the essence of time, why don't you go to the poems?
Okay. How many would you want me to read?
Anyone, I don't know what you have, so read whatever is appropriate.
Okay. Well, this first one is entitled Nobody Like We. Jamaican people have something else to run at, Sit down, let me tell you exactly how we go. A funny people bad, I tell you the truth, my friend. The least little thing you do, we have to screw and bend. We find name for others when they on them bird paper. But if you give me back no ugly one, we want to send you to Jamaica. And when you talk about facey, and when word come out with mouth, you know we's a set of people, you know, if you try to get out. Very much creative with anything we find. And we is a bunch with some of the brightest peace of mind. No tell we can't. For a child, we have to find a way to beat every system in the world to this very day. We are all about the family, and very rare is the time when you see between the units, someone draw the line. The treatment must be terrible, for we are defend them to the death. But if I even family, we can't stand nothing near bad breath. And next is the community spirit. Don't the madman have in place some helpful and amusing, put a smile on everyone's face. And no, we're not too good at a church, we cuss and fight. But if somebody takes sick, we find care no care all late the night. Especially if the woman pregnant and time come for she take in. We are carry you go hospital, no care if we dirty or clean. And the next thing we can take is the frozen underarm smell. Go wash it good and look green like we don't afraid for tell. And if we friend go foreign and come back, care how the state is hard. You don't care about nothing for we, nobody coming our yard. Right and bold, we are asked, where you are going with your too long hand? How you mean you don't have no money? You never fly out with a plan? We don't know what kind of life them go foreign go back. But we are going like say we send them in the cold, go get big work. Rich culture, diverse and extremely colorful. From Africa, England, just about everywhere the various elements pull. So next time you see a Jamaican, do not underestimate and take with simple so. For no Jamaican and no bait. We're bad, we're good, we're nice, we're grass. We're always the first and we must be the last. And in between you must find a one and few. So you know anybody like we, talk the God truth. Does you?
Excellent, Sean. Thank you. And on that note, we're going to take a time signal and then we'll come right back to you.
For all of your prescription and over-the-counter needs, stationery, cosmetics, and gift items, check Dean's Pharmacy first. We are located at 9 Gordontown Road, Vegas Plaza, Papine. Dean's Pharmacy. Call us at 876-977-5343. Dean's Pharmacy. Feeling better starts right here. The time by Dean's Pharmacy is
11:46 a.m.
And now we're going to go back to Sean Harrison, a poet. And you know, Sean, one of the things that's so wonderful about that poem, Louise Bennett liberated our language for us, which we were certainly, when I was in school, we weren't allowed to speak. And so now Jamaicans speak the Jamaican language. I know we still say patois, but really it's the Jamaican language, and we need to start moving away from this patois, which is a corrupted word, which means dog's paw anyway, and to say the Jamaican nation language. And I'm really appreciate all of the Jamaicanism that was in that poem.
Yes.
Let's just hear you share another one for us.
Yes, ma'am. Well, this poem actually speaks about a community stalwart that, you know, passed some time ago. And her name is Ms Tiney Reid. As I mentioned before, and this poem is entitled The Hungry Years, which also is reminiscent of our journey to independence and beyond.
Absolutely.
The Hungry Years, inspired by Mama Tiney. Akin to the barrenness of the Sahara, she recounts her days of lack when early mornings found her journeying in pale moonlight, a load of goods on head and back. The lingering memory of hungry mouths having no father branded vividly on her mind. Her sole motivation through life's wilderness proving mostly unkind. She shudders at flashbacks of risks, unexpected turns, when she rethinks those days of slips, falls, tears, and burns. The betrayals of one too many friends who never saw fit to repay her kindness, but her compassion was timeless. No unrequited tenderness ever holding sway to send an outstretched hand empty away. But the bitter times have changed. Her children, her troop, fighting her wars for food and life's finer things. Now she has no other story but those lodged in memory, and a future never fathomed to be hers. For God has blessed. Now she rests. And only faint, brief outcries at worn joints, a back one too many times bent, and fingers once overworked, punctuate her serenity. for fate and a noble destiny, have set body, mind, and spirit free.
Wow. So beautifully expressed.
Yeah.
That's such an eloquent poem. And you know, I'm listening to it, and you know I'm Ms Tiney, but I'm thinking of so many matriarchs in communities all over Jamaica for whom this poem is an apt description of exactly what they do. Nobody will ever come to them with an arm outstretched and get turned away. They always have a word of advice. They have so many stories to tell, so many lessons to pass on. Like, you have a Ms Tiney, I'm thinking of a Miss Gladys and Miss Sybil. Like, I could call so many names of just those mothers, you know, those matriarchs in our communities.
And what is so important about the poem also, you know, is that you're serving as a griot, the African word of a historian and storyteller, because otherwise these people get lost. As Ruth says, we have them in all our communities, but we don't know their names. And we need, the poem is a praise song to this woman, and we need praise songs for the other women and men in the communities all over Jamaica that are doing tremendous everyday generosity, showing what communities like. So can you just talk a little bit about how you developed that poem, and then we'll have time, I think, for one more.
Okay. Well, this poem, actually, as I said, came out of a true, bona fide, deep down appreciation of just what this lady stood for, you know, and what this lady, you know, represented, you know, as a community member of the Red Hills area, the Red Hills Bend area out near Morant Bay. She ran a cottage industry, and she, you know, was like a nurse. She was an advisor, you know. So it has come out of a sense of deep pride and love for this lady who, even when I, as a sickly child, you know, would ask her for advice or visit her, she always had a remedy or a solution. And it was not the conventional thing. We're talking about peppermint and Epsom salt. we're talking about scorpion and peppermint, scorpion in a rum where we rub, you know, and all those things. But you know, just an incredibly intuitive and, you know, erudite community practitioner. You know, that brought much of the old ways into our paradigm at the time. You know, and even though I say I'm a bona fide countryman, I didn't necessarily grow up in a country area, but, you know, we had enough of the country here, especially that she brought to us, that you know, we missed nothing really, because persons in the community were still planting their yards. There were hillsides that we would run to, you know, in the summer and other times to pick guavas and guineas and mangoes and cherries and coolie plums and everything. And, you know, back to Mama Tiney, you know, she lived her life in such a selfless way that, you know, even the day of her funeral, I had written, before a couple of days earlier, I had written a patch of poem in her honor. But I thought to further emblazon in the minds of those who knew her and those around her importance, you know. So I would have written this poem based on, as I said, my deep sense of pride and love for her.
Thank you.
It never came hard. It never came hard for me. It was an easy outflow.
Okay, let's hear the third one, because we are close to time.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Yes, this is entitled Backs and Faces. And upon their backs they wrote the history of a people extirpated from their home. Each line of writ flesh chronicling the struggle, echoing tales of the pride that would not let them bow, and the ever-present sense of worth that spawned their dissension. In each stride, a hope for their children never dimmed by the endlessness of the oppression, burned and smarted. And that lingering pain etched their birth, our freedom. And upon their faces they wrote, men and women of tomorrow, live to recall the flesh and mingled blood that oozed like mudslides. Live, children, as though it were you who paid the price, you who were humbled. Shine, rise, for it was on our backs the wars were fought for you. Fight with paper and pen. Fight with words of truth. Fight with your souls, but never again with your backs. It must not be. We paid the price, and you must be free.
Asheo.
I'm here snapping, Sean, because
we must be free, but freedom is also something that we have to work for, to maintain, and to shape and guide.
Yes.
Sean, if people want to get in touch with you, for you to perform or whatever, how can they do that? Is there a number or an email you'll share publicly?
Yes, ma'am. You know, if you do a search for me online, you can find me under the name Sean C. Harris. And it's important for you to include that C. My phone number is 876-343-9783. That's 343-9783. And my email address is antopa@gmail.com.
Spell that, please.
That's ANTOPHER@gmail.com. ANTOPHER@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Sean, we want to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. You were very clear and very precise about your hopes and expectations for independence, and these very very moving poems, very appropriate as we think about independence. So we want to thank you very, very much for being one of our special guests, and we want to wish you a safe and happy independence season and beyond. And we know that you're being exemplary in your community in helping us to move steadfastly into a Jamaica that is community-based, that includes our culture. And I rather like the fact, of the local herbs, because many of them are better than the synthetic medicines that we get. And so, all of that knowledge, that's important knowledge that sometimes get underrated.
Yes.
And it is from that knowledge that the other things get made. So we want to find a place to hold that knowledge and to continue to let that knowledge grow and be informed by other scientific research. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Yes,
all right,
thank you
take care.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
So our theme has been celebrating Jamaica's independence, and we've had some amazing guests with us today. We would like to thank our guests, Carol White, who is born and raised in Portland, a returning resident, as well as Alfonso Grinnell, who is road safety and driving instructor, advocate extraordinaire, and Sean C. Harris, a Jamaican creative and an exceptional poet who just gave us 3 beautiful poems that just showed us the Jamaican reality, and who also spoke so wonderfully about his hopes for independence. I mean, one of the things that definitely comes out to me from all of these guests is just, again, that sense of community, that sense of togetherness, that sense of people taking care of each other and looking out for each other. Clearly, that is something that we love about ourselves as Jamaicans, and that we want to see preserved and continued in future generations.
We want to thank our broadcast technicians, our producer, Tania Richards, and our intern, Michaela Graham. And I just want to say that I love the idea and the actuality of independence. I love all of the celebrations.
Yes.
I'm one of these people who love celebrations and colors and parades and nuffness. But I also love the fact that it's a time for us to really think about how we want to go for future. And I want to make us understand that we have some part of going future is to preserve our environment and to make sure them don't sell it out so we grandpicnic them don't have it.
Well
and we
said.
want to preserve the Blue and the John Crow Mountain. We want to preserve Cockpit
Yes, for
country
sure,
and the
for sure.
mountain ranges. We want to be environmentally integral
Yes.
because that is so important for our sustenance, and we want to make sure that the government doesn't sell out our country so that we
Yes.
get to enjoy the beaches and the natural reserves, and that it is there for our progeny progeny
Yes.
10 generations into the future. We want to big up our Blue Mountain coffee. What else we want to big up?
We want to big up our ackee and saltfish, which is our national dish and one of my favorites. Absolutely. As well as the Appleton Estate 50-year rum, which was released in Jamaica's 50th year of independence, which is the most expensive rum in the world.
All right. We want to big up, and I want to big up.
Let me know.
What I want to also big up is how creative we're being with the food, how we're mixing up the food and the different things that we're making from pimento and sorrel jam and sorrel dressing and all of these things.
Yes.
And so, our creativity. And so it's been just a delightful, Ruth, to always share this platform
Absolutely,
with you.
Prof. Love,
and so
energy.
happy independence to all our people.
And don't forget that we've been coming to you live from the studios of Newstalk 93 FM at UWI Mona campus. If you want to advertise with us, please call our sales agents at 876-427-9959. You can also email the sales department at newstalk93fmsales@gmail.com. So taking us out now will be the sounds of Stanley Beckford, Fewey Island, a boom. Have yourself a
wonderful and safe independence.
independence.
We love you.
All
We
right,
love
take
you.
care.
Take care.